Today, we have the privilege, or I have the privilege of interviewing not only my good friend, but the number one top industrial real estate broker here in Doral. He's a father, he's a husband, he's also the vice president of State Street Realty, Frank Trelles. Frank Trelles.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
No, it's this is special for me because of mentoring you many years ago, and I knew when I first saw you many years ago that I knew you were gonna kill it in this business. Awesome. And I chased you for a while. Like that story I chased. I think on one of your podcasts you mentioned it.
I mentioned it. So now that we're gonna open up with that because you mentioned it. Frank has been a mentor of mine. Well, you've been a mentor of mine for, since I first got into the industry, and you taught me everything pretty much that I know. So now I gotta take you back to where it started. Tell me, or tell the viewers, how was it that, or what put me in your mind to pretty much bring me into to commercial?
So I actually think I have a good eye for talent, and you had some qualities that I know would transition the same way I did when I first got into this business, right? I didn't know anything about real estate at all, but I knew it was very lucrative business, and it's something that I wanted to explore. But when I saw you, we have a relationship that comes before our business relationship, right?
Brother Pablo.
Exactly. Your brother's one of my best friends. And I remember we would go to parties and you were always talking about some business you were doing or something you were doing, but it was always something, and you always wanted to talk about business, and you're always very, eager to. And when I would speak to you, you were like, listen, and I would tell you, I go, man, you have that fire in you to make it in this business. To make it in this business, there's certain things that you need, but the most important thing is you have to have that desire.
You have that grit.
You have to have that, man.
Yeah.
If you don't have that desire, if you don't have that hunger, it's really hard. Commercial real estate it's once you basically take off, right? It's like an airplane. It's hard. The hardest part, the whole flight is the takeoff, and then eventually the land, but the takeoff. Once you're up, you're good. It's just a lot of people, they try and they can't, they just can't get up.
That's a good point. I mean, the grit, I try to tell my guys, like, getting into this industry is not just, all right, you can make the calls, you can speak to people, but it's really the hard times that are going to separate you from the rest, right? Like, how many times can you be hung up on? How many times or how many weeks can you go without doing a deal or without having any engagement?
Right.
That's really what's going to determine if you got it or not in this industry. At least that's right.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I knew you had it. So I told you, I'm like, George, come on, man. Like, and matter of fact, at the time, I was just opening up a company with a partner. And I was like, George, I want you to come. I want you to be like my first, guy that I bring in, and I'll mentor you, I'll teach you, I'll train you. We went knocking on doors, hours and hours, countless hours. Cold call, everything we did, but I said it, I told you it's not going to be easy. You're going to come in, it's going to be hard, and you might go 6 months, 8 months without making money in the beginning, but if you hustle, you'll make it. You'll make it. At the time,
going back to that, I'll never forget, 6 to 8 months, and I had just gotten married. I remember I was like fresh. I was like, Frank, I need this money. I need to make money. I have a wife now that depends on me. And you're like, just stick to it. You're gonna make it happen. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I knew it. So it was, like I said, an eye for talent, and I know you always had that in you, that you could achieve whatever it is that you want to achieve.
I appreciate that, and no, it really means a lot because you actually saw that in me when I didn't see it myself. So having you, someone from the outside that was successful, I remember going to your penthouse apartments. I was like, man, Frank has made it. And then you going to that day at Body RX, I'll never forget, because I was working with my brother. And then you told my brother, I think my brother approached me and said, hey, Frank wants to talk to you. he wants to talk to you about commercial real estate. And that was a big thing for me. And I was just starting up. I know I had nothing, but seeing you believing in me, being successful, that spoke volumes, because no one really actually went out of their way to actually say, hey, I see something in you that I know you can make it happen. So
Right.
that for me kind of, spoke volumes and really changed my life, man. I want to thank you for that.
No, absolutely. And now, it's like a full circle.
Cool. Now it's a full circle.
And now we're here. You have your amazing podcast. You have a great company. You have your own stuff, your own staff, everyone. That to me is man, it's like that's success to me. For me,
Yeah.
that's success for me to know that someone that I mentored is now doing what you're doing now. A good mentor is a mentor that expects you to leave one day, that expects you to do what they do, to become them one day, right? That's what a good mentor should be.
And actually,
Absolutely.
partner up and work together.
1,000%. 1,000%. 1,000%. I got guys that I mentor now. I love them. We're killing it. We're making a lot of money, closing a lot of deals. We're having a lot of fun. We do it the right way.
Yeah.
But I hope both of them, I hope they're going to grow, and they're going to have their own team under them and so forth. So that's my job as a mentor, to try to help them get to reach whatever goals that they have for themselves.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And I really admire that part.
Thank you.
Now, let's talk about how you started in the industry. Tell our viewers what got you started and why industrial real estate.
So I kind of just fell into it, really. I was working at Miami-Dade College at the time. I was administrative director. I had like 150 employees under me. Very heavy management intensive job. The salary was good, for the time, but it still wasn't real, good money. I was a government employee basically, and I just wanted something different. I said, man, I'm at this point in my age. I think I was like 33 or 34, 33. I'm at this point in my age. I don't want to keep working my whole life. I'd worked for government. I worked for the city of Miami Beach and I worked for Miami-Dade College for about 15 years between the both of them. And I wanted something different. I didn't want that same 9-to-5 job, and the harder you work, you're not going to make any more money. So, it's human nature. Is somebody really going to put that extra effort if that extra effort's not going to get them anything? Right. So I kind of fell into that trap too. And I wanted to change. So I had a friend of mine that her cousin was, a really big broker in this market. One day we're here in Doral, where we just finished taking the state exam. Me and my friend both passed it. And then I told her, man, why don't you call your cousin to see if he's in his office? Let's just go pick his brain. I had no intentions of trying to get a job. My plan was I was going to go sell apartments. I was going to put ads in Craigslist and the Miami Herald, that I was going to try to sell, residential. So when she called him, he said, yeah, come and see me right now. So I show up and I remember being in the waiting room and they had like a wall with all their brochures. Must have had 30 brochures. At the time there was so much inventory. 30 brochures, 3 million, 6 million, 8 million, 10 million, 4 million, and I'm like, wow. And I was saying, man, I wish that I could be, doing deals like that, So we walked in, we sat in front of him, and then we started talking. He was like, I'm not sure about bringing anybody else in because every time, I have issues and, I don't know if I have time right now to do that. And so right there it clicked. I said, wait a second, he is considering me. I didn't wait. And all of a sudden I pivoted everything. All of a sudden, I actually stood up, I sat up and I go, let me tell you something. And I told him, I go, you give me this opportunity. I promise you, Ben, that you're never going to have anybody who's going to work harder than I will and be loyal to you like I will. And that's it. We started like a week after and hit the street running and just started, making my cold calls. In the beginning, I'm calling. I remember a call. I just print out a list from CoStar. And I started making phone calls, and I don't know the market yet.
Right.
I don't know what the prices are.
Training at the
No, there's no training, nothing. It's just get out there, just be thrown to the wolves, Thrown in the middle of the pool and, expect to swim. So I remember one phone call. I called this tenant. An owner. He had a 100,000 square foot building. And I tell him, the whole pitch. Hey, we have a client interested in buying warehouse. I know you have that 100,000 in Doral. Would you consider selling? And he's like, yeah, you know what? I might consider selling. I'm like, wow. And he's like, so how much? How much you think I could get? And I'm like, sir, I didn't know. I was, lost. I didn't know that the rates at that time, right, or the prices. So I go, sir, I don't want to. I don't want to be responsible and give you a number, and then I go in there and it's different, because your warehouse, my goal on that call was not for me to try to do a deal. My deal was to get the lead for my senior guy, right? So he could take me to the meeting and I just shut up and listen and learn, but the guy kept pressing me, but just give me a ballpark. You can't give me a ballpark of what it's worth. And he goes to me, how long have you been in this business?
Oh no.
Oh my God. Oh, that was my first big cold call that they hit me and he got me. And I'm like, sir, I'm sorry. I mean, sir, I have not been very long, but my senior broker is one of the top guys here in Doral. So I highly recommend that, you meet with us and so forth. After that, I hung up and I just started, I said, that's never going to happen to me again. So and then I started going to like Medley, Doral, Hialeah, and I started seeing the recent, getting comps. So now I had a cheat sheet in front of me with all the lease rates from different markets and all, I did that. So when I started making my calls and they asked me a question, I have it right in front of me. That failure in that call is, you learn from it, and that's our business, is doing situations like that over and over again for years. At this point in my career, it's about 17, 18 years. I've seen it all. There's nothing new on a deal or contract or environmental that we haven't experienced yet, That's why once you lift off and you start getting that experience.
Like AI, right? You start learning from every experience.
Every experience.
You start saying, okay, that's not going to happen again. This is how you fix that.
Yep, absolutely.
That's how you get the experience.
Yep.
Sorry, so walk us through your first deal.
Okay, so I'll tell you it's an interesting story. I'll tell you two deals. I'll tell you my first deal, and I'll tell you my first big deal. Okay, my first deal was, again, my senior broker tells me, hey, call. It was at Prime West on 108th Avenue. He said there's those are condos. There's like 10 in there. So he goes, call every single one of them and tell them you have somebody who wants to buy. Okay, I start making phone calls. I finally get an attorney that owned a unit. And he tells me, yeah, you know what? We want to sell. I'm like, okay, great. Can I send you a contract? He goes, yeah, send me a contract. So I send him an offer, $2.7 million. And I put in the contract 6% commission. My senior guy says, man, there's no way they're going to accept that. I'm like, let's send it. Let them change it, And they accepted it. And who the owner of that warehouse was Scott Stapp. From Creed, the lead singer from Creed.
Really?
Yeah, that was his warehouse. And I didn't know, even we closed the deal and I had to meet him at the warehouse to pick up the keys and because he needed to take some stuff off. And all of a sudden he's with like a entourage. And then one of the guys says, you don't know who that is? I'm like, no, who is that? He goes, that's Scott Stapp. And I still don't know who Scott Stapp was until he said the lead singer of Creed. I'm like, oh my God, I love that guy. So that was my first deal. And man, we got 6% commission. I think it was like almost like $100,000 in commission, and then my cut was like $25,000, $26,000, something like that, and that was huge for me.
Yeah,
I'm coming from a career from again something that I built up for many years, and I was probably making $60,000 a year. Now my first it was like the first maybe 60 days in my second month. I'm making that much. I already make almost half of what I was making. Oh my God, this is fantastic. My thing was cold calling. When you first start, man, you got to cold call because that's the best way to gain experience, and to learn the business. Me cold calling, I called an owner of a building. And I'm like, sir, how are you? I know you own this building and, we have clients that are looking to buy right now. There's not really a lot on the market. So I'm just calling directly to see if, you would be interested in selling. That guy tells me, man, I don't want to sell, but I want to buy. I'm like, okay, so what is your budget? He tells me there's nothing you could show me is too big. Whenever somebody tells you something like that,
you second guess.
I'm second guessing. Is this guy real? Really? Okay, $50 million? Yes. Oh, come on, man. I didn't believe him, So I'm like, okay, what can you come to our office? He says, I could be there tomorrow. I'm like, all right, come on in. So this older gentleman walks in with some jeans with a little hole. Sam Rose, great man. He walked in with a little baseball cap and, just a little polo shirt, just something, with roughy beard and stuff, and he sits on my desk. I asked my senior broker if I could use his office, pretend it was mine. So I sat there pretend it was mine. So I came in, he sat down. It's the first time I ever had anybody come into the office, sat down. It is this guy, it's a whale. And I show him, my senior broker tells me, hey, do you want to, what are you going to show him? And I'm like, I found this. All right. So I showed him, he sat right in front of my desk, and I gave him a brochure of an office building in downtown. It was like a $20 million deal. It was like Bank United building or something like that. So I'm like, and he looks at me and he goes, you think this is a good deal? I'm like, yeah, I think it's a pretty good deal. And he threw it at me. And he goes, this is a piece of, okay. And then I'm like, man, who is this guy, man? And then I showed him a second one. He's like, yeah, you know what? I'm interested. Let's go see it right now. So I told my senior broker, this guy's serious. Come in, let me introduce you. Let's go. So we went, we looked at the property. He saw it. He said, you know what? Offer $10 million and I'll close in 2 weeks. Right there, I was like, wait a second, who is this guy? So I went back to my office after he left, and I'm there, Googling him, and I find out, he's a very wealthy man. Owns, he at that time, he had just sold like over $100 million in office buildings in Washington, D.C., and he was looking to 1031 to invest it here. So now we have this whale, right? So now I started doing cold calling, right? You could cold call a beauty salon, or you could cold call a Fortune 500 company. It'll be a little harder to get into the decision maker, but it's more or less the same thing, okay? It's what limits you put on yourself, right?
I'll never forget that. You told me.
Yeah.
Do you rather sell cars, or you rather sell buildings?
You want to be you want to be a salesperson. You want to sell a pen that costs $1,
right,
or do you want to sell a house or a property that costs $10 million?
Exactly.
Come on, you know what I mean? But so I started cold calling, and I called this building. It was a PBS&J building. And it's funny because I saw you recently posted a podcast, and the subject was your first big deal. And you explained the whole thing, and I remember it to the day because I did that deal with you. But what the full circle, the interesting part is your first big deal. That deal, we closed it when? Like in 2015, something like that?
That was 26, 15.
15, 16, right around there. I had sold that same building with Sam Rose in like 2011 or something like that. That was my first big deal. And what it was, I cold called the owner of the building, which was also the tenant at the time, right? It was PBS&J. So I called him, hey, I got a client interested in buying. Would you consider selling? He goes, yeah, but we want to stay as a tenant. I'm like, perfect, that's what he wants. I set up a meeting for a few days later. He came in, he liked it. He made an offer for $23 million. Which is exactly what we sold it for the second time.
Yeah.
He bought it for $23 million. He had the tenant in place, which he was fine. He was happy with it. He did a 1031. That was my first.
At that time too. So
it was good.
What year was that you sold it?
This is like 2011 or 12.
2011.
Something like that.
So
right around there.
I'm sure that return there, and that publicly traded company.
And then he knew that I guess he already spoke to them, and they're we're not going to renew, or at least, maybe we'll stay on one floor. So he was like, man, you know what? I don't know if I want to deal with an empty building. And,
So he knew.
So he was like, you know what, guys, if you could get me what I paid for, I'm okay with it. And that's exactly what we did. And I remember you sitting down with you, just like you explained in your story. And you're like, man, I have this guy, I'm from my church. And, he's, again, another very wealthy man.
That was the story. That's the second half of the story.
Yeah.
I come and I tell Frank, I got this very wealthy Spaniard. He has $30 million he needs to spend. And it was a 1031. I didn't even know what a 1031 was at the time. Then you said, oh, I have the deal for him. And that's crazy.
Yeah.
So your first deal was the same building for my first deal.
And at the same price.
At the same price.
That's crazy. Wow, that's awesome. That's awesome. So that was my first big deal. And imagine after that, like my head went like this. And now I'm like, I've already made double. My first year, I'm already double what I was making last year. And we're like halfway in the year. Are you kidding me? This is, so what I made a mistake though, because of that. Because having that early success, it's good and bad. Obviously, success is great. Everybody wants success. But at the same time, if it's too fast, it's like you kind of lose respect for it. So what did I do? I didn't want to do little deals. I wanted to keep doing $20 million deals, $10 million deals.
You're repeating the same thing.
And then we had this guy, we had this buyer. He wanted to keep buying. He was like, not just this. Keep finding me, and I'll keep buying. So that I spent like the next year cold calling these monster deals. We put a few in the contract. They backed out. You know, like, so it didn't work out. And so what happened was with my business, I started chasing whales instead of chasing regular sized, you know, company deals, you know, like a 5,000 square foot lease. I wouldn't even touch that. I got a call from a broker that I since the day I started, I always looked up to her because how hard she worked. And she was closing huge deals, you know, 10, 20, huge deals. But and then I had a little listing of like 3,000 square foot warehouse, tiny little thing. And she called me interested in that. I have a client for that, you know, whatever. And I just saw the way that she treated her client in the small little deal. I said to myself, who am I to not want to deal with these tenants?
Yeah.
Those tenants are the ones who make our business. Yeah. Those smaller tenants that we help them grow, we partner up with them. We help them grow their business, right? That's you know, right. That's our future growth, right? Future, yeah. You got to start. You know, I have had clients that started off in 5,000 square feet and today they're in 80,000 square feet. Yeah. And I've helped them along the way expand and so forth, you know. Absolutely. So after that, I switched. I said, you know what? No. I got to start. I'm going to keep doing the whale chasing, but I'm still I need to focus on my day-to-day, what's going to pay my bills. Those big deals are, like you said, those are life-changing deals. In other words, a life-impacting deal. Right. You know, maybe you could buy a new house or a new car or take a big trip or remodel, whatever it is, big deals like that. Yeah. But the little ones are the ones who pay our mortgage, our car payments, our electricity bill, our food, you know, those little ones, you know. Yeah. So you have to find a mix, a balance, you know,
point,
of both.
That's a good point to really put those things in perspective. Like the big deals are the ones that, you know, obviously the life-changing deals. Right. The ones that you have the cushion now, or the ones you could buy a house or a car.
Right.
And then the smaller deals, that's what I show my guys. I'm like, man, I treat a 5,000 square foot tenant the same way I'll treat the $20-30 million deal. Yep. It's the same thing.
So that's what she did. That's what she did. And she taught me that. And ever since then, I switched, you know, and I said, no. You know, I'm going to, anybody who needs, you know, and then I started doing something, George, and I know you're a man of faith and you know I am too. You know what really changed me? I pray to God every morning, every day, every night. I go to church, you know, Sundays. I actually go to church during the week, in the mornings, when I drop off my kids at school. I would always pray, you know, God, you know, please help me. You know, please help me make this. Please help me become successful. Please help me become one of those the people that I admire, that I look at. Please, I want to become one of them one day. You know, please. So if you think about it, God's answering my prayers. He's answering my prayers. He's sending me a 5,000 square foot deal, an 8,000 square foot deal. Who am I to say, no, God, I don't want that? Exactly. No. So now I changed. My mindset now was, I need God. It's not just about me. God needs me to help them. Because usually, you know, somebody in a small space, that's you know, maybe a family, they raised, you know, they were employees, they saved up, and now they're opening up their own little business. You know what I mean? They need help too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's not about the money. It's not about how much money we make on each deal. It's about the relationship. You know, it's about, you know, doing what's best for your client, you know, regardless of the size, regardless of, you know, to help them. So I started saying, I said, man, God, you're answering my prayers. I'm the one still denying and saying no. So and then I switched. So everybody who called, I've had brokers now call me looking for space, or they're calling me one of my listings and no, it's no longer available or you know, whatever. Or I know it won't work for them, but I know a building that will. So I'll spend a little time, you know, sending them information. And a lot of the brokers, they ask me, man, why, you know, I'll send you a referral. I'm like, I don't want a referral.
Yeah.
I don't want a referral.
That's funny. You shared that with me that one time in that lunch meeting. And I've since been doing the same thing. Yep. Because brokers, we're here to give.
Right.
That's what we're here for. We're here to give our service, or our time, or our expertise to these business owners, businesses, brokers, everyone.
Right.
So the same thing that happened to you with the same deal happened to me. When I popped that first deal, I told everybody in the office, everyone, I said, hey, I don't want no more leads. I'm going after whales. And the same thing happened. Yeah. 1 month, 2 months, 6 months. It was a drought.
Right.
And then I'm like, what am I doing?
Right.
And then all that started coming back to me. And then with regards to praying, when I would lock myself in the conference room, I locked myself in there. I would pray and say, God, use me, whatever it is, put a deal in front of me, you know, let me, you know, you're in control. Right. I'm going to do the work. You're in control.
Absolutely.
So I would lock myself in there. Sometimes I wouldn't even have lunch. Just call. and following after your footsteps, because that's really what what I was doing.
Yeah.
So that's great. Frank, tell us about your morning habits, your ritual. What gets you going in the days to do you cold plunge? Do you I don't know.
So my routine, I'll tell you my routine basically, and it's nonstop since about 4:30 in the morning, maybe. My older son, he's playing on his high school team now. So he has practice at 5:30 in the morning. So I wake up, at 4:30. I wake up the older one, make him breakfast, make sure he's ready, and then he leaves early. And then I go back to my bed, and I have about an hour from 5:05, 5:10 till about 6:15. I go back to my bed, and I pray and I meditate for about an hour. Then I wake up at 6:15 because now I have my little one. I wake him up, make him breakfast, get him ready for school, and then I take him to school. I drop him off at school. When I drop him off at school at 7:30 in the morning, I go to morning mass right there at the same school. So mass is at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 8:30, I'm at mass. When I finish mass, I go to the gym. I get a good workout in. I've been working out. Fitness to me is it's a lifestyle that I've had my entire life. That it's a physical part. It's you have your spiritual, but you also have your physical body. So to me, the gym is that's my coffee. That's my coffee. So then I go to the gym. I get a good workout, take a shower, shave at the gym, then boom, I take off to the office. I meet with our guys.
What time's that? It's like,
so usually like around 10:30, around there.
So you have 5 hours from the moment you wake up to focus on getting right spiritually, mentally, and physically.
Exactly. So now I will tell you that during that entire time, I'm looking at my phone, I'm answering emails, I'm sending messages to my guys, I'm looking at my schedule, you know what I mean? So I don't hit my office to 10:30, but I've already done, I've already been working for 2 hours. When I'm in the gym, I'm sending emails, I'm saying, I believe in having a balance, to achieve great success, to achieve, and not just in business, just overall life, you have to have a balance, right? I get to the office, meet with the guys, if we have showings, appointments, meetings, whatever, emails. And around 2 o'clock, I take off and I go back to pick up my son at school at 3 o'clock. I pick him up every day. From there, I'll take him to basketball training or to jiu-jitsu, something after school activity. I'll do that. And then usually we get home around 5:30, 6, and then it's dinner time. I got to make dinner for everyone. My 2 boys, make sure that they take showers and get to bed early. And then that's it, man. And we repeat it over again. Okay. And that's basically every day. So I'm nonstop. I put my older son finally, he goes to sleep around 9 p.m. So around 9:30 is when I'm finally like, okay, now I take a shower, I eat, watch, a little TV with my wife, whatever, spend time with her. The kids are already in bed. And then, that's it. We go to sleep and the day starts all over again, The exciting part though, is so you have the known and the unknown, right? Known is exactly like all the deals you're working on. The ones that you have a good feeling, the ones that are going to close, the ones that it's a 50-50, or that's a little shaky, right? That's the knowns. What about the unknowns? That's what I like to focus on. Mm. The unknown is a deal that you don't even know yet because you haven't got that call yet. Right. That's the unknown. So I want to focus on that unknown. Today, I received a call. Someone said, hey, Frank, man, you showed me a warehouse like 3 years ago. 3 years ago, and my friend needs 50,000 square feet right now. It's a great company, and I told him he needs to work with you, whatever. I'm like, man, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And I called the guy right away, and I set up a meeting with him. I'm going to go see him tomorrow. I didn't know that was going to happen. That's a deal, 50,000 square feet. That's probably a $5 million deal, maybe $6-7 million deal. That's like $200,000 commission. Something around there. It's huge. What other business in the world that something like that could happen?
No way.
Right? So it's kind of like, the known, the things that are in front of you and the things that you need to do and the action you need to take, right? But there's also the best part of it is that unknown part.
And that comes from sowing, right?
That's exactly what it is. And having faith. And having faith is always going to come. I'll tell you another issue that I experienced, years ago, which is imposter syndrome. like imposter, right? That is when you reach a certain level of success, or you're starting to do something, and then you're say, wait a second, I really don't belong here, right? I went from making $50,000-$60,000 a year to making $500,000 a year. I never knew I could do that. This is years ago. I never knew I could do that. But when I started making that $500,000 a year, I still had the mentality of being poor, being struggling, being tight with everything. You know what I mean? It's and it's almost kind of like I remember being at meetings with Sam Rose. I was in a meeting, sitting at a desk. I know this guy's incredibly wealthy, and this one too, and and then I'm here. Like, do they know that who I really am? Like who, So it took a little while to say, yeah, you know what, I belong here. I did what I needed to do. God, I finally see it.
That's a great pivotal point in the career.
Yeah, it was huge.
It's for me, same thing as I battled with that. I think it was a few years in it. I was like, man, I made all this money, but I still need to go work harder and harder because I don't even think I belong here.
Right. Like you said, the doubt starts. Yeah, it starts.
And then I think after, I don't know, it was probably like after year 8 till recently, really. I was like, no, I do belong here.
Absolutely.
And then you start kind of like, it's a mindset. It's a mindset where you're just kind of like, no, this is where I belong.
Right.
And those calls that you get randomly, those are the faith you had and all the calls that you sowed and all the things that you gave of service and value to all these business owners that not expecting nothing in return, but having faith, those will start coming back to you.
Yeah.
And that's where that pivotal moment starts coming in and saying, I do belong here. Because of all that work and faith that I did in the past, you start reaping that now.
Right, absolutely.
That's a beautiful
So it took me a little while to overcome that. And when I did, I took my career to another level. But like you said, it's all a mindset. This is a mindset. You have to make up your mind if you want to succeed or you don't. It's not somewhere in the middle. You're gonna enter a new career, a new industry, a new business, whatever it is. You have to really educate yourself first on the product that you're gonna sell, right? But you have to put in the time. You got to take action.
Yeah.
You can't just wish for it. You can't just, you got to have that mindset where you have that vision, right? It's kind of like you have someone, you're standing at a 4-way stop, right? And you're standing, you're on one side of the street and you see another person on the other side of the street, right? That's you. When you're looking at the other side, that's your current situation, right? And then what are you going to do? In your mind, you decide, you know what, I'm going to cross the street, right? So that right there, that moment, you don't even think about it. Your mind just does, your body just acts, right? Your goal is, I need to go where my friend is. I got to cross the street there, right? So you're here right now in this moment in time, right? Which is time, right? And space. That crossing the street is where I want to get to. That's my goal. So in our career, it's the same thing. You want to achieve success. You got to, in your mind, you got to see the success. It's already there. I just got to go to it. It's already there. So you have to, if you have that mindset and you have that vision where you set a goal, whatever that goal is.
Seeing the process as walking to it as nothing big,
right.
Nothing major. It's just an action that you're going to take.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And you gotta believe it, right? Because if I look across the street and I can't get there, there's no way. Look how many cars are coming away. Think about it. If that was like the 836 or Turnpike, right. I wouldn't be able to cross the street. I could see you there and I want to get there, but why? Because I don't believe I can make it. Right. It's the same thing. You set a goal, and that goal is like, man, I want to make $1 million. That's my goal. I want to make $1 million. You got to be able to see yourself making that money. Yeah. You got to think on how you would feel once you have that money. What would you do when you had that money? If you continue to focus on that, that's what you're going to attract. That's what you're going to draw into your life, into your existence.
Good. Yeah, I believe that. Hard.
And a lot of it's faith. A lot of it's faith. You know what I mean? It's like, I've closed a lot of, when you close a lot of deals, especially our business, like, our brokers, every year we want to get a little bit better, right? Every year I want to close a little bit more deals. Right. And pretty much my entire career has been that. Every year has been better than the year before. Which is great. But when you get to a certain level, now it's a lot of pressure. How can I keep that up?
Yeah.
Right?
How can I keep that up?
And then you start having the doubts creep back in. Oh, what if I can't keep it up? What if all of a sudden I don't start closing deals? Right. Why am I thinking that? For the last 10 years, I've been doing it. Why all of a sudden I think now? Why? Exactly, the wrong voice. You're listening to the wrong voice. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're going to feed the other voice to make that voice stronger.
Right. Absolutely.
That's good. That's good stuff. Frank, let's talk a little bit about the market.
Sure.
Where right now, it's 2023, we're at the end, Q4. Where do you see us going into 2024? As far as industrial goes, as far as you could go micro.
Right. So industrial, as you know, it's been on fire since COVID. Even before that, we were a very strong market. Yeah. With COVID, we became the hottest market in the country. The demand just went through the roof. What happened was companies in New York, New Jersey, California, all these that they shut down. They had very strict, restrictions. A lot of those companies, remember, a lot of people they live they have a house in Miami or an apartment in Brickell, or they come here on vacation. So they're very familiar with Miami. So basically, they said, man, you know what? Instead of being shut down for 8 months, a year, I'll lose my business. If there's a small business, you'll lose a business. Let me move to Miami. Beautiful weather, no state tax, right? And lease rates were, New York at the time was like $24, $25. Miami at the time was like $12. So I remember I would get so many calls with the New York area code. And I closed a few deals like this that they would call, say, hey, I'm looking for this. I would send it to them. Where can you come down? No, I'm not going to come down. Just go do a FaceTime, like a virtual tour. Mm-hmm. And I closed a bunch of they never even came down. Really? And then when I sent them the proposals, they accepted it. They didn't even want to negotiate. Why? Because they're saving like $10 compared to what they're saving now. And they wanted to make sure they got that space. So there was a frenzy of people taking space from all these places. So what happened? The supply started, diminishing. Yeah. Prices started going up. Landlords started pushing rates, crazy, rates more than doubled. I've had tenants that they're coming off a $9 a foot lease rate. Now the renewal's at $22, $24. That's a huge jump for a small business. Usually, typically, you're on any company, your number one expense is payroll. Number two is your real estate. So and all of a sudden now you tell them that's going to triple. You're taking all their profits. In the last couple of years, especially the last year, I've seen a lot of smaller companies basically just saying we can't pay those numbers, and then they're just switching over to 3PLs. So the larger companies are the ones that are flourishing. The smaller ones are the ones that are struggling. When you rent a 5,000 square foot, a smaller space, the smaller the space is, the higher the price per square foot goes up. So imagine somebody at 5,000 square feet, they might be paying $25, right? Somebody at 100,000 square feet is paying $16. That's a big, difference, right? So a lot of my clients, I did, last year maybe 4 deals right around 200,000 square foot deals. And they were all 3PLs. And it was all because they were getting so much business from these smaller tenants. Lease rates have kind of plateaued a little bit. It's kind of stabilized a little bit. There's a little up and down, bouncing going on right now.
Where do you see the 20,000 square footers are at now?
Around under 20,000 square feet that's a sweet spot. That's always been the sweet spot. And it's hot. It's very, very little inventory. Something comes out right now, the market right now for something like that is they're probably going to be asking around $27, $28 a foot. And again, it's because of the supply. There's no inventory. So if a 15,000 square foot warehouse comes on the market and it's the only one in Doral, there's like 6 companies that are looking for that. And you have 6 brokers making offers. Now we have in South Florida, I think there's like 11 or 12 million square feet under construction right now. About 7 or 8 of that is already leased. But we still have another 5 or so, and that's not even talking about the projects that are going to be coming online soon, right? So in the next few years, we're going to see like a lot of space available, especially the large spaces.
So right now, construction is still happening.
Construction still happening.
The only thing is there's a scarcity of land.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So we have no more land. We have the Everglades and we have the ocean. There's about 11 miles or so in between. you can't create any more land. We have run out of land. Like there is no land to buy. All the big REITs purchased basically everything, and the development projects are already, in the works, But so I see 2024. I think we're going to do a lot of bumping. I think my own, call it prediction if you want. I think the Fed is going to start lowering rates next year. It's an election year.
I say end of Q3, Q4.
No, before that, because the election's in November, so probably February or so. Because they're gonna want to lower it. I think they're gonna lower a quarter point. Wait a couple months, lower it another quarter point. That's how they're gonna start doing. But even lowering a quarter point, right now, if the Fed comes out, and I think the meeting is this week, or next week, if the Fed comes out and says we're gonna pause, the stock market goes up. There's a big, because that's good news that they're not gonna continue to raise it. Right. Now imagine what happens if they announce we're going down. That's kind of like the reason why interest rates went up because inflation's gone so high. Right. With the interest rate, the issue that I have is that they've been raising interest rates for the last 2 years or 2.5 years, but too slow. A quarter point, a half a point, a quarter. So what happens is it's right. Why? Because they don't want to tank the market. They don't want to tank the economy. The truth is, it's better if they do. Because if they would have raised it a point, it would have been a quick, small recession. And we would have done a V shape. And by now, we would be out of it already. Yeah. Right? So they didn't do that. They raised it little by little by little by little, which was a mistake. Now they're announcing that they're freezing it. Once they start lowering it, it's kind of the Fed is telling the market we're in the clear, right? We got out of the danger. And in my opinion, we haven't got out of the danger because what happens is, yes, so inflation is a little under control now. It's still way higher than it was 2.5 or 3 years ago. But
the new norm.
Exactly. But it's for instance, like the first year inflation, I think went up to like 9%. And the year after that was like 5 or 6%. And so if you think about it, we're like at 17, 18% above what we're expenses. That's huge. That we were 3 years ago. That's a big thing, right? I think what's going to happen is I think the Fed's going to lower interest rates, start lowering it. The market's going to go crazy. Our industrial market, real estate is going to come back because now interest rates are started to drop. People are going to start wanting to get loans. But I think that's going to be a mistake. I think it's going to show us a short-term bump. And we're all going to think fantastic. But what happens? How do we get into this position? How do we get into this inflation? There was too much money on the street. So what happens if they start lowering interest rates and everything goes up and your 401ks goes up and everything goes up? What are you going to do? You're going to start spending more. And if you start spending more, what happens? We get back into the inflation. When you have too much money chasing too few goods, inflation, right? Yep. So I think that's what's going to happen. So I think 2024, when you see those lease rates start going down, I think you're going to see lease rates bump up a little bit. They're already high now, so I don't think they're going to go crazy, but I think they're going to go a little bit higher.
I think they're a little bit stagnant now.
Yeah, we're stabilized now. We're kind of, and now landlords are taking each deal different, It's if it's a good quality tenant, if it's a good national company and it's a big space and so forth, they'll do it. They'll do something a little bit below, what they want to do, just because they know, hey, but if I could do a 10-year lease, okay, for the first 2 years it's gonna be a little rough, but year number 3 he'll be paying what I want him to pay. Right. Now it's worth to do it. If you don't have a good credit company, then the landlord's gonna be risk and reward, right? Yep. If you're a risky company, well, it has to be worth my while, so I need a higher rent from you. So I think credit, quality of the tenant is going to be extremely important. But I'll tell you what I think is going to happen, maybe not even next year, the year after and moving forward. Man, we're running out of space. Right now, if you have a client that's in 15,000 square feet, they're being hit with a renewal, crazy renewal, and they're like, I can't pay this. Show me what's out there. It's nothing. Maybe show you one, and it's going to be the same price that you're paying now. So what's going to happen is when all this new construction is absorbed and we have no more new construction, that's going to happen. We're going to get to a point there's no new construction. I've heard people talk about, because what the next step is they're going to start buying buildings, knock it down and building up. Now when you're buying buildings in Hialeah for $200 a foot, you can't knock that down and build it up and think you're going to make a return on your investment. So I don't see that happening for a long time, a long time. But I do see I see my business is going to change. It's gonna be a renewal. I'm gonna become a renewal broker because that's what's gonna be. Because it's gonna be most tenants, and a lot of my clients are signing 10-year deals now or last year now. I'm telling them, you're never gonna move. Because when your lease is expiring, there's going to be nowhere for you to go because everything's going to be absorbed. A demand is not going to stop in South Florida. You see what's coming in Miami, the soccer team, you have the Heat, the Dolphins now doing. We have our Basel. We have this. You kidding me? This is,
Miami's always been the teenager market.
Man, and it's blowing up even more. Nice. And it's not going to stop. So if it doesn't stop, what happens? You go to downtown, Brickell. They're building thousands and thousands and thousands of units. Well, guess what? The more people we have, the bigger the population, the more goods they need. The more goods they need, the more warehouses they need to store those goods, right?
Miami's a consumer market.
It's consumer. So that's it, man. So I think that's what's going to happen. You're going to see our business is going to change a little bit, and we're going to be really working and helping our clients, negotiate their renewals. You'll still be able to move. I'm not saying that none, but I'm just saying I think it's going to be even harder than now.
I've been seeing a lot of subleases going on.
Oh, yeah, you could see that. There's a bunch of subleases coming out now. Yeah. And some big spaces coming out on the market as well. I mean, Flagler Station just got they just posted, I think yesterday, 245,000 square foot building, vacant. It's huge, So let's see. Let's monitor and see how long it takes to lease that, Well, I'm going to try.
Frank, to a young broker, let's say a young me, what type of advice would you give them starting in the industry and as a tenant rep broker?
Okay.
What would you tell them if this was to start today?
First thing, okay.
This market.
First thing, and whether it's real estate, I don't care what it is, but this goes across the board of everything. You got to learn your product. You got to know what you're selling, like upside down, inside out. Now, if you're a young person, I will tell you, look at your first, and maybe say it's a young kid that went to college and he just graduated and he's getting into real estate. I tell these guys, you're 21, 22 years old. Okay, you look very young, right? You're super smart. You went to Duke or UM, whatever. You great, mentality, great family, great, presence, everything. Right? You have everything. But the truth is, at 21, 22-year-old, do you think you're going to walk into a warehouse and sit in front of a 65-year-old man that's been running his business for 30, 40 years, and, it's a $100 million company? He's not going to, go for you for guidance and advice. He's not. So if you know that that's not going to happen, and you have no other control, you just have it's time. Remember, we talk about time and space, right? You're in that particular moment now. I know where I want to get to, right? So you need to learn your product, whatever it is you're going to sell, right? So in our case, it's real estate. I tell them, learn your product. Since you're not going to be closing those monster deals, you got to get ready for that. One day you want to get there, right? So it's like I'm seeing it on the other side. I know I want to get there, but how do I get there, right? So what do I do in the beginning? Just focus on education. Go get your CCIM. Try to become an apprentice SIOR. Try, there's a bunch of, courses and things you could take. Yeah. Oh, you got to do that. You got to do that. But so a young person, I'll say education. Go get those classes. Go do this. And then obviously you got to hustle. You make the phone calls. But the mindset you have to have is in the beginning, the first few years, it's about learning what you do. And it's hard to learn from the beginning. Right? We know this. We've been doing this for a long time. We've driven in this area, hundreds, thousands of miles, So we're familiar with it. But if you're a brand new broker, you don't know what Medley is. You never been to Medley. If you live in Kendall, you don't even know Medley even exists. What is Medley? You sit in your bed at night, open up your laptop and, go to CoStar and just start doing searches. Like I told you what I did. I needed to learn because the guy caught me and said, you don't know what you're talking about. So I had to come up with a cheat sheet. Well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's the same thing. Young person, man, learn the market. So for instance, if you sit in front of a warehouse, you knock on a door and the guy goes, yeah, come in, sit in front of my desk. You need to know the market. You need to be ready to answer whatever questions he has. So if he tells you, yeah, what are lease rates in Doral right now? You better know, And not just that. If I tell them how much space you're looking for, 40,000 square feet, I'm like, okay, so look, there's a space here. I already know. I don't even have to look. Most of the times, when I get a requirement, I don't even do searches. I already know what's out there. I have alerts on my phone. Anytime a new listing comes out, and I get it. And I'm looking at it every single day, and I'm sending it to my guys, sending it to clients, see what, But that's it, man. Say education, education. The definition of success is when preparation meets opportunity, right? So you're not going to have that opportunity to sit in front of that guy, that $100 million company, right? So let's prepare for that. So one day you can. Exactly. So one day when you do get there, and you know how it is, your first couple times you do that, it didn't go well, but it's okay. It's a learning process. Right. You needed to go through that. We've had clients, I'm looking for 200,000 square feet, and you take them, you get all excited, and you take them all over the place, and then they end up, like not being serious, and then what do you say? He's like, man, what a waste of my time. Right. No, what do you mean a waste of your time? You just did a practice run for a 200,000 square foot client. Do you understand that? Do you understand? You just did a practice run. So when you get a real guy, you're going to know, you're already going to have that experience. You already know what to do, what to say.
It goes back to the mindset. I think it's how you see that opportunity, how you see situations. When a deal falls, the way of looking at it is like, oh man, I lost a deal. I wasted my time. That's not the way to see it.
Nope.
It's like, what did I learn from it? I was able to do this practice run. I had the opportunity to do this.
Right.
So that's the way of kind of shifting, doing the mind shift and saying, I had the opportunity of learning this. I was given the opportunity to do this, and meet someone or. Right. So I think it's a mind shift to see.
Absolutely.
Frank, man, thank you so much for coming on.
It's my pleasure, man.
Frank Trelles, right here, Power Broker, SIOR, VP right here of State Street Realty, and a good personal friend. Thank you.
Thank you,
guys.